Okay, guys. Hello, it's me, Brokenshard, the coach of SK Prime, here with Yannick SK Genax Bartels, the midlaner of SK Prime.
What's up?
We're here to talk about the newest champion released, Qiyana. Maybe one of the most underhyped champion releases I've seen.
Yeah.
They really didn't do much about it, so people are like, oh, there's a new champion. I even completely forgot about this champion because it's been so underwhelming. The champion isn't that good right now, is it?
Yeah, it's really bad, I think. Like, the base stats are bad, it has really little poke, it has no sustain in lane, so it's not really a good mid laner. And then for top lane, the base stats are not good enough, and for jungle, the clear is not good enough. ADC, it has no range. Maybe the support, I don't know.
It has no poke though, maybe in all in lanes, but like it's a cheese pick.
Yeah, I mean, it has no real point where you would say, oh, okay, we should play it here because this or this is really good on this lane. I think it needs to be buffed to real.
Yeah, there needs to be buffs for sure, and right now we wouldn't necessarily recommend playing Qiyana for the most experience, but assuming you do get out of lane, which is her weakest point, get some levels, maybe level 7, you're pretty strong.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to play her though, even though she's like not good. It's really fun to play her, especially when you get out of lane, because you have so much mobility when you fight in jungle, and in solo queue you fight a lot in jungle, so that's pretty nice.
Yeah, the problem is lane, so you need to be really defensive in lane, you need to kind of give a bit of leeway, but you have all-in potential with her abilities, but we should take a look at those right now. So, Qiyana is basically a champion that her kind of shtick is that she's an elementalist for the most part. She uses the terrain around her in order to change her abilities. You have access to all of the terrain options in every lane. Mid and top seems to be like the best place to use it because depending on where you're fighting in the area, you're gonna pick up the element. So her passive is just a basic, your next basic attack or damaging ability against target unit is gonna deal more damage, physical damage. It scales with your level, AD and AP. It can't occur against the same target more than once every few seconds. Now the big thing is that once you pick up an element, it will recharge. So the idea behind her, it seems, is that the common theme that you see is that her abilities reduce their cooldown or completely refresh it based on picking up an element. So the gameplay mechanic I see around Qiyana is you fight, pick up an element, fight again, and you keep trying to chain around it.
You basically wanna go for like short trades. You go on the enemy, you do your passive to Q, then you get a new element, another passive, another Q, and then you get out, because after that there's a long period, or like not a long period, but you can see the Q cooldown.
It's 25 seconds. Yeah.
No, it's 7 seconds is the passive.
Oh, sorry, the passive cooldown.
It's 7 seconds, so you don't want to go for longer trades, because most bruisers and also most mages will out-sustain you with damage in those long trades.
Yeah,
so
they have more sustained damage.
Yeah, what I really like as a combo is if you go in, you do your passive, the Q, and then you pick up the brush element, you do passive again, and then you...
Let's talk about the Q first, before we talk about the different elements, because the Q seems to be the one that's affected the most by terrain.
Yeah, okay, so I can explain the elements. Like, we should talk about the W first, actually.
Okay.
Because the W is a short leap that wherever you click it on, like, it has actually a lot of range. It's like maybe 4 flashes, I would say, and you just need to right-click on the spot what kind of terrain you want. Like, you have the walls, you have river, and you have brushes.
Okay.
And you get 3 different types of bonuses for these. The W can also be used as a, like, the small dash can also go over walls, which is pretty nice.
Okay, it also says that it does damage as well. So here's the thing. While you hold an element with your W, your basic attacks and abilities deal bonus magic damage, and you also gain out of combat move speed while holding an element. So imagine you're playing top lane, you push the lane and you want to roam. You jump to the river, you pick up the river, you get a bunch of move speed, and you can roam mid and fight mid. Yep. So, like a talent, like you said, you actually have the opportunity to use it. The extra damage, I would say, is not something that I would laugh at. It could build up, especially if you're playing a bruiser build, playing with something like Wit's End. You could actually look to do a lot of damage. So essentially, this is the most important ability in her kit, you would say?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the kit is built around this, like, this is the ability where you decide how you want to play.
It's a 7-second cooldown across all ranks, so I'm assuming you just put 1 point in it and leave it.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to go.
So the only way you can reduce the W cooldown is through CDR. So obviously items like Trinity, Lethality items that give you CDR are really important because this is like the most important. With about 40% CDR, this cooldown will be around, I don't know, like 4.2 seconds?
3.8.
3.8. Yeah, that's right, 3.8. 45% takes it down a little bit lower. So yeah, I mean, it's important for CDR. That's why we took the Cosmic Insight. We want the extra CDR. So with the W now down, we should talk about the Q. Because this is her main trading ability.
It's just like this really small poke ability. It doesn't have too much range. It's kind of like Yasuo Q because it hits everything in front of you. It's just damage.
She does not dash, so Qiyana slashes forward in the line, dealing physical damage to reduce 70 to 75% damage against subsequent units beyond the closest. So let's say I'm standing here and then there's a minion and a champion in front of me. I Q, the minion will take full damage, the champion behind will take 75% damage.
Yep.
Really basic, scales with bonus attack damage, 35 mana with a 7-second cooldown. Again, the cooldown does not reduce with levels, it is only reduced with CDR, which is really bad for early game because leveling up your abilities actually don't give you any cooldown reduction, so she has very long cooldowns. If you have an element though, you consume the element and throw your blade out, which detonates in a line upon colliding with an enemy reaching maximum range, dealing the same damage to all units that are playing a bonus effect. So alone, the ability is boring. With an element, you gain a lot more. With a brush, you throw grass and you get invisible. So, kind of like Kha'Zix,
yeah,
I would say.
The thing is though, it's like for 3.5 seconds, which is really, really long.
That's a very long time.
But you can't, as soon as you attack or go out, the grass that you spawn is gone. So you need to use it really carefully. And then the Wither element, it roots the enemy. It works kind of like Zyber. It just 0.5 seconds root, and then they get slowed by 20% for 1 second, which is kind of nice if you want to chase down enemies. And then the terrain one, is an execute that already works after 70% and 70% of the max health is gone, and they take 60% bonus.
That's a lot of damage.
Which is really good.
That's a lot of damage.
If you're going for the assassin AD build, like with Fumos and Dustblade, it can really stack up.
Yeah. Basically, brush, invisibility, quick trades, get out, hit, get out. River, you're chasing someone, it's CC, terrain.
Gang setup.
Yeah, gang setup as well, terrain, kill. Basically, it's the most damage that you can do. Should mention that your passive and your Q are reset when you pick up an element. So the main combo that I would see is you attack Q, pick up an element, attack Q.
Yep.
And so in lane, what I would recommend, or at least Genex, what Chu told me, is you attack Q, basic attack or just Q, because you have the effects on basic attack, pick up a brush, do it again, and then stealth out before they have a chance to fight you. And that's kind of how you want to whittle them down.
Yeah, that's how I played it early game. Like, there's a reason why we're going the Cosmic Insight with the 45% CDR, and in general we're stacking CDR items, because like in lane you play small trades, short trades, quick damage bursts, play with electrocute, then get out, and as soon as you reach the late game, and your cooldowns are kind of low on the Q and W, so you can actually stay on the enemy and be like annoying, like Tank Echo used to be. Because it kind of works like Tank Echo, because like the E ability is a dash that you can not use normally. You can only use it on an enemy. Like it's kind of like a blink basically, but works as a dash.
So her E is called Audacity. The active is Qiyana dashes a fixed distance towards the target unit and deals physical damage. Yasuo E.
Yeah.
Pretty much Yasuo E. And it's actually the same almost with her Q. You cast Edge of Ixtal, which is her Q, it will aim at the dash target. So it's basically Yasuo E. Yasuo E and Yasuo Q, so it plays a lot like that. Does physical damage, scales with bonus AD. So the question is, since the cooldown of this actually reduces, would you max this first or would you max it second after Q?
I would max it second after Q, because I think when you don't max the Q in lane, there's no way you can ever win a trade.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. She has low mana costs. Looking at her mana costs, they're quite low. Forgiving, for sure. So she's definitely meant to be played as something that like annoys people in lane. Which is why I think in top lane, with the grass, it actually might work really well.
Yeah.
Her ultimate, Supreme Display of Talent. Qiyana sends a Wind Blast in the target direction that knocks back enemies, and the Wind Blast stops about hitting a wall. It has a range of 1000, which it will stop automatically, but if it's a wall, it explodes basically. Talia ult, any wall. Then it creates a shockwave across any river or brush it passes through, as well as around the borders of terrain it reaches, dealing physical damage and stunning enemies based on the proximity. It deals physical damage, scaling with bonus AD, and also a percentage of the target's max health. So essentially, it's a ridiculously good team fighting ability.
Yeah, it's really strong.
So if you're fighting around jungle areas, you could really do some damage using the terrain, and the shockwave will deal a lot of damage. Explain to me maybe the best uses of this ability, because all I see is just to press R at something and it dies.
Yeah, it's really good if you are chasing down enemies, and it also works pretty well in the Nash pit. Like if enemies are doing Nash, or if you are doing Nash and you want to zone them, it works really good. But one of the ways to use it I like the most is for sieging and at the tower. Like the tower is really small and you only get a small area, but it's basically like if you would Orianna Q ult, like a shockwave around the tower, and the ult also works as a knockback. So if you hit enemies before you hit the wall or the tower in this case, you will knock them into the tower and then they get shockwave. So
Imagine it's like Gnar ult.
yeah, it's basically like a Gnar ult and then a shockwave.
So yeah, so it's Gnar ult combined with Orianna ult.
So when you're sieging and the enemy wants to defend, you can often catch them off guard with this combo.
I mean, think of it like Vayne E and Poppy E, you kind of played around. You want enemies near a wall so you can shockwave them into it, and then they get kind of destroyed by it. Runes. In mid lane, the ones that I saw most often is Electrocute, most of the time. You basically just want to go Electrocute, and then in the offensive tree and the domination tree, there are access to some sustain options like Taste of Blood. I think this is the most underrated rune in the game. It's so good, especially if you're trading, because it gets you sustain. And you would probably just take the general eyeball collection and then ult CD, right?
Maybe you can also go for Weaponless Hunter, but I think ult CD is just better because the ult is actually the ability, like it's a really good ability. Like for the kit is not that good, but the ult ability is really nice. So I would think Ultimate Hunter is a good rune to take on her.
Right.
And then also I would go in the inspiration tree. I would go for Cookies and Cosmic Insight.
Yeah, Biscuit Delivery, by the way, is Cookies.
Yeah. The biscuit delivery, and I start corrupting in game, and with the biscuits I have a lot of sustain lane, and the champion is lacking the sustain, so I think this is the
So yeah,
necessary...
you're basically taking runes to cover her weak point.
Yeah, exactly.
So these runes are meant to help you get out of lane. Would you consider like Resolve Tree at all to kind of help with her weak points?
I don't think Resolve Tree is good on her. I think going for the potions is better than going for the second win Revitalize combo.
So this is mid lane Qiyana. You essentially are building her like an assassin with lethality. So you want Duskblade Yomus, most likely a GA, maybe Black Cleaver, just the general items that you would normally get on most assassins. Now top lane, I've seen some people playing her as a bruiser. Do you know the item builds for that, or what have people been going? I know Tiamat is pretty good because it gives her some push.
You can also go Tiamat in mid lane. It kinda works like a talent, but has different strengths and weaknesses. On top lane, I think in some matchups you can even go Conqueror and then go for maybe like a Trinity build, like
So
Camille
I was
style.
thinking about top lane right now, top lane Qiyana, and I was thinking that if you're really that weak on stats, you should just go Grasp of the Undying talent tree, and like it's obviously a little bit more boring, but you basically go for Grasp of the Undying and all the defensive abilities, you know, shield plating, second wind, revitalize, so that you at least have some sustain, and then you just go back into inspiration tree and pick up the cookie. So it's a lot like a GP where you're kind of using these OP runes to get you past the early game, and it helps also with your trading because you trade on grasp and your melee, you make the most out of it. It's obviously the most boring in terms of actual combat effectiveness, but if you're going top lane against a lot of the other bruisers and tanks who have ridiculous base stats, I think you kind of need to go this. Grasp is the best for lane. So if you're gonna go her top and then you want to build her like a bruiser, you know, Trinity Force, Tiamat, this type of thing where you're mainly looking to just constantly fight with CDR, I think this is the best way to go.
Yeah.
She's really definitely strong at setting up dives because every turret in at least the first three, there's always a wall that people always flock to. Imagine you're approaching through mid lane on blue side and the enemy is hiding by the turret, you shockwave them into the turret, they're just stunned, they're dead. And considering that it is based off proximity, they will actually get the full duration of the stun when they're hit. The current win rate for this champion in high elo is
35%.
35% across all roles. Like we said, this champion is definitely not strong, but if you really want to play it, and you're not high elo, you may as well play it because no one's going to know what they're doing against this champion. Genex plays it mid lane. I personally think that top lane tank build is better. If you want to be an assassin, you can play it mid, but I also feel like there are better assassins to play. But go crazy. This champion, I would say, looking at her kit, she's due for some buffs, but not on kit-wise, numbers-wise. If she gets buffed, her kit is kind of crazy. There are obvious limitations, like the high CDR values, CD values without any CDR, but once you do get items, this champion seems to scale ridiculously well. It looks fun, entertaining, and it rewards creativity, probably a lot more than any other champion in the game right now.
I mean, you can really do a lot with this champion, and you can design it yourself individually how you want to.
Yeah, you can actually play this champion almost in any way. I highly recommend people to actually just try it support, because maybe as a support with no items, it's still really good because there is a lot of utility in this kit. and her execute is pretty broken even without damage. You could actually do good damage, and her ultimate is also really broken.
Yeah, and also the ultimate works with max stab damage.
Yeah, that's true. It has a lot of base values, and it also scales with bonus values, so it works both as a scaler and as a tank. I honestly think that it's really weak in every lane and jungle, so maybe support is the way to go. So if there's anyone crazy enough, I would just go Relic and go support. And then just try to play all in. Until she gets buffs, I would not expect to see her in any pro play unless someone is crazy enough. But we should talk actually a little bit about matchups that you think she's good at.
I think she is really good against other assassins, like Zed for example. I saw some gameplay of her played into Zed, and whenever the Zed went for an all-in combo, she just dashed to avoid his Qs, and then when Zed ulted, she just used her Q with the brush element, so she gets invisible, and that couldn't put any more damage onto her, and then she could just outrate him basically.
Yeah, so you can avoid all-ins and fight on your own, so she's good when people go into you.
Yeah.
But then if no one has to go into you, like say you're playing against, I don't know, Cassio, Ryze, Azir,
Syndra is probably a really bad matchup.
Yeah. Something to mention, she has literally no defensive shielding or healing capabilities besides invisibility, so if you actually take damage, there's not much you can do. So you need to be really good at avoiding damage using your brush invisibility. So I would say there is a high skill cap. Anyway, I think that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have success with Qiyana. What? Oh yeah, don't forget to like and...
Subscribe.
Oh yeah, of course, Gen X. Thank you for that.